So we did send it before, so I'm assuming it's probably in there somewhere.
While we're just getting ready, we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Councillor Mann, you've got the consent agenda.
Yes, I have, Mr. Chair. It's moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Reid, that the consent agenda be received as printed.
All those in favor? Carried.
Still, eh?
So, yeah.
We're going to call a recess.
Sorry.
No problem.
I didn't do anything. I'm technically challenged, but this time I sent it ahead of time and everything. What do you think I feel? Did anyone check to see if it was in there somewhere? Because I did send it about a week ago.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I didn't even know there was one.
But
Or I would have tested it.
they couldn't find it, so they said just to put it on. Use the stick.
Yeah, well, usually it's okay. I haven't had this.
Figures I would curse it.
Who?
It figures I would curse it. What's your name?
Lynette.
Lynette. I'm Donna.
Yeah, that's me. Let's try and open it.
That's a good sign.
Yeah, it's doing something.
Yep. So once it gets going, how do I change? Just to flip slides, just use this?
I'll show you.
Okay.
Yeah, you can use the mouse. It's a huge presentation.
No, it's just this many pages. Look, it's,
Oh, it's got, yeah.
there's some pictures.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's been bigger ones than mine, though.
I'm sure. After you replace the system, it's going to be doing this.
Look, there's really not that many pictures.
Who said she had a copy of it?
I sent it to, oh, I can't remember John's name in the clerk's department. Yeah.
James
What's the last name?
Hudson?
Yes.
I'm just going to see what happens when the green bar gets to the end, if it ever does. Keep clicking, it's just going to make it worse.
Yeah.
Just
Then
read.
you won't be able to look at the pictures. Pretty pictures. Yes. I sent it ahead of time. I sent it ahead of time.
No, but I could copy it to the desktop and maybe
Oh,
that would
notes
help
all
if it's
over it.
running off the hard drive instead of that stick.
You think is best.
Oh, if I have a clean copy.
I can access it from the H
Really?
drive.
You can access it?
From the H drive.
Oh, I see.
So if there's another way to,
No, I don't have a clean copy.
Who's, oh, that's your USB stick, your own
that's
personal one.
yeah, it's
Mhm.
personal. But if you want it in the H drive, I could,
Well, I don't have access to it from here.
yeah.
I did send it ahead of time.
Hmm.
I don't know why it wouldn't have been loaded in. Because I asked them the procedure and everything
That's the
too.
other thing we can do is present, and then I can email it to council.
Okay.
Do it that way.
Just give me 2 minutes.
We'll
before
try
I
once
give
more,
up.
and if not, we'll do it
Yeah, I
that
don't want
way.
to hold things up any longer.
It's almost like problem with the stick. It's just cluttering.
Hello, everyone. So what we're going to do is we do have an issue with loading, and we apologize for the inconvenience.
problem.
It'll be made available though to council and members of the public, and
Okay.
you're still allowed to present. We'd love to hear from you.
Okay, well, thank
So
you.
welcome, Donna.
You just won't be able to see the pretty pictures that I put in the presentation. So at first I want to talk a bit about our success that we've had. Overall, since we started this program, there's been 93 family physicians that have come to Cambridge. Since 2013, again, okay, we've had 26 physicians come to Cambridge. We've had 25 retirements during that time where physicians leave the community. I had a picture of Dr. Sandy Sham, and she's one of our newer physicians who took over for a retired doc about 2 years ago, and she's a great example. She's been a real asset to our community. Besides her practice, she's also a physician for a nursing home, takes on medical students, helps with community call, and is always available if I'm asked to help the committee. Some of the challenges we're currently facing are the number of physicians available and competition, and that's across the province as well as the country. We have more transient physicians than ever before. As the ministry has listed Cambridge North Dumfries as high needs, physicians want to move here to secure a FO spot, which is a family health organization spot, but sometimes they do not commit to the community long term. We also have a lack of locum physicians available to fill maternity leaves, vacations, and illness, and of course retirements is the biggest challenge that we have. We also have half of our family physicians are female, so that does mean we do have a lot more maternity leaves than we've ever had before. And it's not just Cambridge or Ontario still having challenges. I had some headlines I was going to show, but what they talk about is that there's still a severe shortage in British Columbia, in Nova Scotia, and Peterborough is quite desperate at this time. And I'm also hearing from some of the candidates that I tour that some of the Ontario communities now are offering financial incentives, which we of course do not do that. So currently we have 4 retirements pending in the next 6 months, so this equates to approximately 6,000 to 7,000 patients. We also have 2 maternity leave locums to fill in the new year. And how we try to fill these is we reach out to potential candidates through Health Force Ontario website, contacts at medical schools, our database of past medical students and residents and contacts. We then invite the candidates to tour Cambridge for the day, which could include visiting the clinics that they're interested in. It could include a real estate tour, tour of schools, places of worship, and meeting with other physicians. And certainly often a tour of the hospital as well, and we'll be doing more of those in the new year. And we give them what I call my doctor bag, and it's full of information about Cambridge, as well as things like the little pens that I gave you. Hosting medical students and residents in the community is also vital for growth and future recruitment. This component of our mandate has increased significantly in how we reach out to medical students. Romp Week, which you're all aware of, we host 10 first and second year medical students for the week to introduce them to Cambridge, and they have the opportunity to shadow family docs and specialists. So this year they enjoyed a tour of City Hall and lunch with Council. Trevor McWilliams toured them through downtown Galt. They canoed the Grand with the Ancient Mariners. They worked on a patient in distress at the Sim Lab at Conestoga College, and they enjoyed a hike through the Rare Charitable Reserve. So many medical students will reach out directly for us to help them find a preceptor to fill one of their rotations or electives, and this includes international medical students from Cambridge or surrounding areas who wish to return here one day who are currently going to medical school abroad. McMaster, as well as other medical schools, will place students directly with family physicians in at Cambridge Mora Hospital. And we also work closely with the residents from the KW campus of McMaster Medical School in hosting various recruitment events and retreats. Most recently, we held one at Langs, which allowed representatives from various Cambridge clinics to speak about practicing at their location. Retention is also very important, so we're lucky to have sponsors that assist us in celebrating Doctor Day, which is a provincially regulated day, May 1st every year. And then we also try to hold at least one appreciation event every year for our physicians. And we are starting to include the specialists as well, which is great for the new docs to meet the other docs in the community, and also the family docs to get to know the specialists. So we certainly like to acknowledge some of our major partners, and the main one, of course, being the City of Cambridge, who have been with us right from the beginning. So we're very, very thankful for your continued support. We also like to thank the Chamber for allowing us to operate from their location. And this is really, really convenient because it assists us in many ways for spousal employment. We get information. The Visitor Center, that's where we get all our information for Cambridge. And plus, it's an excellent location for docs to meet me before the tours. We also receive fantastic support from some of our clinics and physician groups in town, as well as some corporate sponsors for events we occasionally hold. We also this year received money or support from the Cambridge Academy of Medicine, as well as the ROMP, which is the Royal Ontario Medical Program. Cambridge Mora Hospital has always been a partner with the committee. However, in the last couple of years, our partnership has increased due, of course, to the upcoming expansion. We have been assisting in the recruitment process for specialists, helping to place medical students within the hospital, and other tasks as needed. I then had a couple of slides that were courtesy of Ontario Medical Association, and what they were showing was the contribution that Ontario's doctors give to the Ontario economy. And on this slide, it also showed that 30% of the funds that the doctors receive from OHIP billings go to staff salaries, office space, office supplies, and medical supplies. I think that's something that sometimes the general public doesn't know or is aware of. And what a physician contributes to the economy, they contribute to full-time jobs, to the GDP in Ontario's economy, and of course to taxes at all levels. So in conclusion, as we started as a task force due to the extreme shortage of family physician, it eventually evolved to a committee to work on the ongoing need for physicians to keep Cambridge citizens healthy. Having excellent medical professionals and facilities to attract and retain businesses and people to Cambridge is very important. This is, of course, a problem for all communities, which is why so many municipalities and organizations partner on this important issue. Due to the growth of our community, retirements, and new physicians, I still receive a large number of requests for primary health care. Some requests are also more complex than in the past and may be a bit more challenging to find a health care provider for them. I'm also a member of the National Physician Recruiters Organization called CASPR, and the majority of recruiters work for local organizations, and although the makeup of each one varies, our goals are primarily the same, and we have similar systems for recruiting, which leads to great networking opportunities. I also meet quarterly with a local group consisting of members of the LHIN, Health Force Ontario, and other local recruiters. These meetings allow the sharing of ideas, information gathering, and a way to advocate for the health needs of Cambridge. So on behalf of the committee and the community, I would like to thank the council and staff for your ongoing commitment to this very important issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, members of the committee? Councillor Wolf?
Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you very much for the presentation. So I have two questions. When you're recruiting doctors, do you look for specifically for specialists? I've heard like for knee replacement in Cambridge, that kind of thing, we've got a 2-year wait. So do you do anything to
I have
attract?
been assisting the hospital somewhat in the last couple of years, and that's only going to increase once they know what their capacity is going to be at the new hospital. But I do meet with the chief of staff regularly, and he gives me an ongoing list, and I try to certainly reach out. And they're reaching out to me more often as well.
Okay, thank you. And the second is actually a question from my granddaughter, Natalie, who you know, and she wonders why we don't have a female doctor on the pens.
Because our supplier didn't have any. I certainly look for that every time I go to get my swag to give out. I certainly look for that because I'm very aware of that. As I said, 50% of our physicians are female.
Female. Okay, thanks.
Which again leads to my problems of finding locums for them.
Councillor Adshade?
Thank you, Chair. And Donna, thanks for the presentation, and thanks for all your efforts in bringing doctors to the community. Just a couple questions I had. I'm just wondering, is there any, do the doctors have, or do you promote, I know when you're saying there's a retirement, for retirements that's 6,000 or 7,000 patients. Is there any way existing doctors could take, is it possible for them to take some of that caseload, or is there a way that's worked out? Do you promote that, or is that done? And the second question is, you mentioned about financial incentives. I'm just wondering, curious as to what, like you said, some Ontario municipalities are offering finance. What are they doing, where, and what are they doing?
To tell you the truth, the second question, I'm not sure where the money is coming from because every committee is made up of different groups or organizations in the community. So I'd have to investigate that for each community, but
okay.
Some feel that they need to do that. Okay. And regarding the first question in spreading out the patients, the problem is when a physician retires nowadays, they usually have a very high patient load, which could be 2,500, 3,000. The recommended amount now, I believe, is 1,260 is what the government recommends. So you basically need 2 new docs to take over for 1 retiring doc. That's the problem.
Okay.
Only that doesn't really work because they can't share, if they're in a family health organization, they can't share that spot, so it makes it a bit more difficult.
Oh, okay.
Plus the newer doctors aren't willing to take on that number of patients anymore.
Oh,
It's just not done.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay.
Mayor Craig?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And through you to Don, I just want to thank you like everybody else is doing tonight. And I guess my question revolves around the fact that we were once an underserviced area, and now we're not considered that. Would you be able to put together for us sort of a bit of a history of your time doing this in terms of the number of doctors we brought in? And because I think it's important, healthcare is not a responsibility of municipalities, but if we hadn't have stepped in, would be thousands of people in this community that wouldn't have a doctor. So if you could put that together, I'd be interested to see how many doctors you've been responsible for bringing in. And I think it's important because we often get criticized for stepping over the boundaries into and supporting other programs that are federal or provincial. It's a perfect example where we needed to step in. Okay?
Definitely.
Just to get some stats on it.
No problem.
Thank you.
Okay.
Councillor Mann?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you, thank you for the presentation, Don. And I know you wanted the screen, but you did a great job without it. And I'm very interested in the number of doctors, and I'm not sure if you can give me a number, but the number of doctors who would have student doctors accompany them. I think that's such an important aspect of selling our community and selling the clientele and those kinds of things, to encourage the students to stay with the doctors and to stay with the community once they finish their schooling.
Definitely. We certainly work with McMaster on that, and also their program is called MacCare, and also ROMP, which is the Rural Ontario Medical Program. They also place students in our area, and sometimes there's a little bit of a turf war between the two of them as to who gets to place with what preceptors. And I've just said, I'm sorry, we just want medical students here. I don't care what organization they're coming from. So I'll place a lot of them myself. They'll just phone me directly, and I will get them placed. But that's something that's very, very important to me.
And is there, if I may, Mr. Chair, is there a high percentage of students who come and work with another doctor?
Yes, and it's been increasing. And they'll come to do electives. They might be in their medical school days. It might be in their residency. There's all different levels that they have to do, their different rotations. I'm also placing them at the hospital as well.
Thanks.
So that's something I work on quite a bit.
Councillor Montero?
Thank you. Through the chair. Donna, this bringing doctors from other countries such as Europe or whatever in Europe, it doesn't matter where from, are the restrictions still as they used to be? They were pretty rigid.
I think they've eased up a little bit, but they still have to go through a process. There was a new physician I was just speaking to, and I can't remember where she's originally from. Oh, I just toured her last week, and hers wasn't recognized at all, so she had to go through her residency again. And then also, because she's an IMG, International Medical graduate, she has to go to a high-needs community, which we are. So we're not an underserviced anymore, but most of the Southern Ontario communities aren't, but we are considered high needs. And that's based on the fact that we have a lot of older physicians, so they know retirements are going to be huge. So she has to have a return of service for 5 years in a community that is of high needs. So they have eased up a little bit.
But there are, just a follow, there are, I know of England, for example, accepts a lot of doctors from continental Europe,
Right.
Such as Portugal, Spain, Italy, and it's not that hard for them to go from continental Europe, say, to England.
Right.
Are they easier on their
No, because then it's a federal thing that they have to go through a lot more steps. I get quite a few requests from Great Britain, and it's a difficult process for us to be involved in. If there's somebody here, I'm making it sound kind of complicated, but it really is. But it is possible, but it is a much more difficult process to go to. So more specialists, I think, communities would take that route with more specialists and with family physicians.
Thanks.
Well, I have no further questions. Councillor Adshey had asked my question, which you answered well, so thank you very much, Donna, for everything. When I moved to Cambridge 25 years ago, like, my family had trouble getting a doctor, and I'm just amazed to see how far we've come, and the community appreciates your efforts. And I've heard a lot of positive feedback from the doctors about how great of a community this is to live in, and the outreach efforts have been going on, so very well done. And you're attracting quality doctors as well, so I just want to commend you for all your work. And
thank you.
Around the committee, we all
it.
feel the same way, so thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you. Again, sorry about the presentation.
We look forward to seeing when it's available. Thanks.
Thank you.
Unfinished business, non-jurisdictional items, notice of motion, council updates. Councillor Reid, you have the close of meeting.
Yes, the close of the meeting, that this council meeting, committee meeting does now adjourn at 7:30 p.m.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
That was great, Donna. You're amazing. You're Prescott. I'm gonna try that next. I'm gonna try that next time. I'll put like 8:30. It'll be like 10.